Welcome back to the Tommy Stone Show, everybody. My name is Tommy Stone, and I'm going to be your host for today's episode. And today we have a lot to cover, mainly with the Iran war, the new ceasefire, and what's going on with Trump. So be ready, get your notebooks out, and be ready to know how to make your next move in the market. Since the Iran war, Trump's approval rating has also plummeted amongst voters. And the real reason is because of rhetoric and comments like this. Sorry, wrong hand. What Trump is saying about Iran, again, like I mentioned before, is he wanted to decimate the civilization, and this did not sit well with anybody, essentially anybody in America. This did not sit well with. And the reason for it is because a lot of people felt like America was getting itself into another Middle East conflict that we did not belong in. And one of those people was Joe Kent. Trump appointed him at the beginning of this presidency to be the head of the National Counterterrorism Center. And Joe Kent resigned from the position of director over this Iran war, saying that we are not fighting for America's interests and that we are actually, in fact, acting in the interest of other allies, including Israel, and that we are not acting for the American people. Joe Kent resigned, and he did so, and he's now going on a huge social media rant calling out Donald Trump still, saying what he is doing and what he is saying about this Iran war is completely unconstitutional, and he is siding with the Democrats, saying that Trump should be impeached for this. Right now, Polymarket puts Trump's odds of being impeached at 65%. This follows a long line of precedent where Trump has already been impeached twice by the House of Representatives. And again, he has not been removed from office yet from any of these impeachments, but he's already been impeached twice. So this would be the third impeachment, the hat trick for Democrats. And right now, we're already seeing all the stars aligning for it. And these stars are starting to line up a lot faster than people would think, especially with Representative from Connecticut. He's a Democrat, John Larson. He has just filed articles for Trump to be impeached under the 25th Amendment. And right now that is following a broader trend of people calling out and criticizing Trump for his comments on the Iran war. Trump recently went on a huge crusade of Truth Social posts calling for Iran's entire civilization to be destroyed if they didn't agree to a ceasefire. He was going to start blowing up bridges, essential infrastructure, and anything you can imagine, essentially making Iran a hellhole. And that is what he said. And on top of right now John Larson saying all these things about Trump and wanting to get him impeached, we also have a former Trump loyalist, Marjorie Taylor Greene. She is calling for Trump to be impeached as well using the 25th Amendment, calling him evil and mad for his comments and his actions towards the people of Iran and the war going on there right now. On top of everything I just mentioned, currently, there are 85 House Democrats calling for Trump to be impeached. Amongst the other names I just mentioned is also AOC and Nancy Pelosi. So who really knows how this is all going to wrap up, how this is going to finish? Trump, every single day, it seems like he's saying something completely different than the next. And his other people in his administration, like Pete Hegseth, they're also, it seems like every single day, saying something completely contradictory to each other. And the reason why people are going so crazy about why it seems like America has been essentially controlled by other allies and controlled by other parties in this war is because on the very first day, Pete Hegseth himself said that it seemed like Israel was going to attack and that America was only attacking because Israel was going to preemptively attack, so we had to join them. And then Trump ended up refuting that very day, in fact, saying the exact opposite, saying that America was the one who was going to preemptively attack and that Israel was the one who joined us in on the attacks. So our very own director, head, however you want to label the position of Pete Hegseth, our very own head of the Department of War, didn't know and wasn't on the same page as Trump, at least what it seems. They didn't have the same intel about why we were going into this war. So baseline number one, that is a major problem before we get into any war. And secondary, this is a huge historical mistake that we have made a million times over in the Middle East specifically. When we go into these massive regime change operations and we get nothing out of it. And the reason why we get nothing out of these regime change operations is because we have no end game. We get into these massive forever wars that are very politically difficult to exit. Because the second that we enter the Middle East and we start destroying dictatorships, we are creating something called a power vacuum in all of these countries. And a power vacuum is essentially when we topple over one power in the Middle East and another power rises up. And this power, every single time historically, has been incredibly authoritarian. Because in order to take control of an entire warfare, of an entire warland, especially in the Middle East, essentially a Mad Max desert, in order to take it over, you have to be very powerful and you cannot take any sort of nonsense from somebody. And a lot of times that means you restrict a lot of rights of the people. And that has always led to more rebellions. The perfect example is Iran itself. In the 1950s, we overthrew a democratically elected leader because he was not pro-Western. And in so doing so, we installed somebody called the Shah. And the Shah was around for 27 years. And the Shah then ended up getting overthrown by another revolution, which led to the current Islamic Republic that Trump has now killed, the current Ayatollah. So when we went in last time to Iran and we changed who was leading the regime, we created another civil war and we created 30 years of instability in the region. And 30 years during that entire time, the Iranian people hated America because their country was all over the place. They had no set infrastructure. They had absolutely nothing keeping them stable. And they can't rely on themselves because they blamed America for coming in, meddling with their affairs, and essentially destroying their entire country. So now the real question stands. The real question is, how are we going to create an Iran that is not only able to enter back into society, but is able to live with the fact that America has now changed the regime again? And like I've said before, you can pick any sort of Middle East interaction that we've had. America with Afghanistan, with Iraq, with former Iran, any sort of interaction with Saddam Hussein. Every single time we've interacted with the Middle East, it has led to these forever wars. And right now it is shaping up to be the exact same thing. On the first day of conflict alone, Iran was able to use their proxies to spread the battlefield to over a half dozen countries in the Middle East, including all of our Gulf state allies like Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and we also saw bombings like we saw famously in the Middle East, right in the middle of Israel. We saw Iran blowing up a ton of Israel. Thankfully, again, on most of these sides from these proxy battles, there haven't been a ton of civilian casualties compared to what we've seen on the Iran side. So again, Iran is really getting decimated right now, simply because they are outpowered by the Western allies in the Western state of America and Israel, and that coalition together simply is just going to be too strong for them. And if they continue to fight, then Iran most likely is going to be completely decimated. But the question then is, at what cost? Right now, we have already seen oil spiked beyond belief. Everybody knows this. We're all already feeling it when every time we go and we fill up our car at the pump. I mean, everybody knows it. America is feeling the Strait of Hormuz being closed harder than we are benefiting from Iran being under attack and under siege right now. A huge contention and a big reason why people are calling for Trump's impeachment right now, especially, is because Iran didn't necessarily pose a direct threat to America. And a lot of people are saying that Iran was going to pick up nuclear bombs and that Iran was starting to nuclearize. This is complete nonsense. For the last 20 years, Israel has been telling us that countries in the Middle East have been nuclearizing, and America has listened and gone in and essentially invaded for nothing. This is the most prevalent case with Iraq. When we were told that they had nuclear bombs, we went in and we invaded them, and they had nothing. And now, again with Iran, we're being told that they have the capabilities to create a nuclear warhead and that they're getting incredibly close because of their enriched uranium. But the real kicker is they've been at 60% enriched uranium for years. The threshold to get from 60% to the percentage you need for an active warhead is 30 more percent. And that 30% is incredibly easy to get once you've got the initial 60%. And the big issue that everybody had with why America attacked again is because Iran doesn't even have long-range missiles. They don't even have the capability to get outside the Middle East. Really, even I don't even think they have the capabilities to get into Europe. I don't know for sure. Again, it's very conflicted, the information, but for sure they do not even close have the capabilities to get to America distance-wise, but also to be able to get to our Iron Dome and our now at this point, I guess it's like the Platinum Dome. I mean, there is so much defense, so much space between us and Iran. The threat was essentially non-existent. And the fact that they were already enriching uranium and using it for 20 years as leverage shows that being ambiguous with the nuclear weapons was Iran's ultimate endgame. And they used this ambiguity and using this essentially veil of not really knowing what was going on behind closed doors, when we really did. They used this leverage to control every single negotiation and get their way for the last 20 years and stall the fact that we should have made Iran pro-Western decades ago. Iran has not had the capabilities to get a nuclear warhead for the last 20 years. We've been told that, again, repeatedly by other allies in that area, especially Israel, that they have had the capabilities, but we have not seen it. And even so, Trump blew up their nuclear program, a huge part of it, a bunch of facilities just a year ago. An operation, I believe it was midnight some whatever. Last year during the summer in June, we ended up blowing up a huge facility in Iran, multiple of them, that were supposedly being used for their nuclear program. And Trump had told us that set them back decades. We later found out that it only set them back quote unquote months from later analysis. And now we're later finding out that again, that this nuclear program was being stood still at 60% enrichment. So there wasn't any progress being made. This wasn't like it set them back anyway. They were halted. They were using this ambiguity, using this, they were enriching uranium as leverage in these debates and essentially discussions with America about whether or not they should have nuclear weapons. And we fell for it. We completely fell for it, and we fell for Israel's game, and we are now involved in another forever war. So that's pretty much the gist of everything. If you have any questions, if you have any comments, if you have any thoughts about this, please leave it in the comments below and let me know, because I love to respond and I love to hear. Make sure to follow me on Substack, Instagram, TikTok, anything you can imagine. Just go type The Tommy Stone Show and you'll see this mug. Thank you again for watching. Have a great day.